What's going on, guys? My name is Noah Flater. I am the face model for Kenshi, and I did the motion capture for 8 of the Mortal Kombat 1 video game characters. Today, we're talking about Sub-Zero. Let's go. So Sub-Zero was a really interesting character. One of the most important things about doing Sub-Zero for this specific game was, one, we were already in the middle of COVID. And when I say that, the lead director, the action director, Carlos Pensina, was already in studio. They weren't able to fly in anybody at that time because of the strict COVID protocols. So Carlos already had to do half of Sub-Zero and Scorpion. So by the time I was able to come in, they already had a very strict set of rules that applied to just those two characters. So the martial art that I really was able to focus on and that Carlos really wanted me to help bring life, a huge inspiration was Hungar. So Hungar is a Chinese style martial art, and it's really emphasized on its harsh, strict tiger claw type of movements. And I remember when they were telling me with Sub-Zero, a huge inspiration was he is now going to be a little bit more of the aggressor in the game. They wanted him to be more powerful in the way he moved, his strikes a little bit slower, but really strong in the way he attacks. And for Scorpion, they wanted to flip it. They wanted him to be a little bit more cool, level-headed, and a little bit smoother in the way he fights. So I had to take a lot of inspiration from these Chinese-style hand movements for Sub-Zero, slowing down the movements as I'm fighting, and really try and bring a lot of strength and charisma as Sub-Zero. I grew up wanting to be Sub-Zero 3 different times for Halloween as a kid. So it was a dream to be able to do that motion capture for the character. But what was interesting was the lack of acrobatic movements or kicking that Sub-Zero really had. I think they really wanted him to have a more base type of structure. Nothing super flashy. I did his flying side kick, of course. He has a classic like front, side, and roundhouse kick. Nothing that really honestly stands out to me, but I would say almost all of my kicking techniques are Taekwondo inspired. So there wasn't anything too dramatic on Sub-Zero's kicking or acrobatic movements, but it was really focused on his hand textures for his martial arts portion. So my prep for Sub-Zero was really interesting. I kindly and politely requested to the producers of the show, like, hey, I would love to be able to have rehearsals any which way that I could. I said, if I show up in the room, I can definitely do improv martial arts where we just show up 9 to 5 and we start making it up as we go, and it's a conversation in the room. But it's always better to have more rehearsal time going into the room. And I said, it's gonna make it 100 times better if I have more time. They approved it, which I was very thankful for. We had rehearsal time prior to me going into the studio and plenty of Zoom calls where the animators would make time, sit down on a Zoom call, talk to me about all the characters. Now, mind you, I guess I was the very first performer that was even allowed to have rehearsals, which kind of blows my mind, but a lot of the animators made it very clear to me that, Noah, you're the first guy that has requested it and that it was even given. So in doing that, I think it made my time at NetherRealms just so much better, being able to bring the characters to life. So with Sub-Zero, a lot of my prep was really interesting because my martial arts, the way I normally train, especially for film, is I understand tempo and rhythm, but Noah Flater playing a character, I'm always very intentional where I move really, really, really quick, fighting, and then I know how to hit the pose, slow it down, and I know to play the beat. But when I'm doing, let's say, a jab cross hook, I know how to do that 10 different ways, but Mortal Kombat really pushed me, specifically Sub-Zero, pushed me to understand how to do it another 10 different ways. And what I mean by that is slowing down the movements and having intention on every hit. That's the beauty of Sub-Zero, is that he's not very quick, but every jab that you see him do, every back punch that you see him do, it's very intentional, it's strong, but there isn't what we call egg on my face. It's an industry term meaning I'm waiting in between the beats. So if I throw a very light example without ruining anything here, if I throw a slower jab, cross, hook, it feels very stale, right? But if you add some movement in between where it's strong, ooh, strong, hit, back down, it adds a little bit of flavor in between the movements. And that was a lot of Sub-Zero for me. So that was really, really fun for me to start prepping and thinking about how I wanted to bring that intensity to Sub-Zero. So one of my favorite iconic moments doing Sub-Zero was actually this intro move that I'm gonna play for you guys right now. And there's me fighting me. But let's go ahead and play that back, and I wanna break down why this specific sequence was so difficult for me. Sub-Zero is absolutely so difficult to do for the weirdest reason possible. The way he moves, where he has the ice layered underneath of him and he slides into position, was so difficult to try and get. It was because of the shoes that I had to wear that had the markers on them, but it wasn't really the shoes, it was the type of floor that they had in the studio. So whenever I'd step, I had like maximum grip. So which is great for flipping, kicking, any of that type of stuff. But if I need to slide and create some type of movement to slide, we literally spent an entire day trying to figure out, maybe not the whole day, but we spent at least 4 or 5 hours trying to figure out how to get that slide to work. It was kind of a nightmare, but we finally figured it out. And we tried getting cardboard and having me slide on the cardboard, which barely worked. We got, I think it was like some type of fiberglass plastic sheet that I had to try and slide off of, but literally we had to like send somebody to Home Depot while we're in the middle of the studio session still filming and all the animators are on the Zoom call. It was so difficult to get that sliding motion, and then eventually I had to physically try to at least get a foot of a slide in, and they need this body movement while I'm sliding. That was the hardest part to get down, and it just took forever. And it's the little things that you don't ever think about. So that was really difficult here, but more importantly, the art of acting. The acting element is so crucial for what I do, because yes, I can execute real martial arts techniques, but a lot of it is imagination, right? We're in a studio with 100 cameras, and the way that I did this sequence was actually with a bow staff. So I had a bow staff in hand, and they told me, imagine that this is made out of ice. It kind of has this hammer at the end of it. I need to smash the bow staff on the floor, and when it cracks on the floor, it'll become a spear. So the idea of thinking here is that this hammer weighs so much more than a bow staff does. So it looks smooth here because we had to get it a few times, but the way that I have to carry it, I have to pretend that it is a little bit more weighted than a normal bow staff. If you're a normal martial artist, you would move the bow staff very quickly. It would fling, fly, move really fast. That's not what this movement and this character in this scene needed, and that was that sequence. Another iconic moment of doing Sub-Zero was learning his defensive stance. I actually really enjoyed it, but here is where it separates from action acting to real martial arts. So Sub-Zero's defensive stance is very much here. So this is not a great real life martial arts block. I'm so open, especially on my left side here, and I don't even know what the left hand technically, maybe it could be blocking a low kick or a low attack, but structurally in a real martial arts setting, this is defensively very weak. But that's where the acting portion comes in and the entertainment value of, I have to create so many different styles of blocking for every character that what would look strong and feel cool for Sub-Zero. So that was a really difficult one, and not to say just the defensive block, but the stances. I had to do all of the stance work for every character, and the normal high stance, the standing guard, is easy. It's the low blocks where your character drops down and blocks all the low attacks. I literally had to do that for hours on end, squatting down, squatting down, squatting down. Your legs are just completely destroyed doing that, and it was crazy. So to wrap this video up on Sub-Zero, I want to end it with one takeaway experience that I had doing this particular character, and I'm going to use my cryotherapy experience for Sub-Zero. I'm the only performer that's requested rehearsal times, but not just that. I'm in studio Monday through Friday. What that means is that it's 9 to 5. I'm in there 8, if not 9 or 10 hours, the only person in the room shooting. So think about trying to go to the gym and you're working out for 2 hours and you're like, okay, I'm exhausted. I literally had to do that for hours, which I love that I get to do that, but you need to be receptive to your recovery time. So I literally strategized, okay, Mondays, I'm gonna go off. I'm gonna do all my hardest tricks, hardest kicks, everything that's physically demanding, I'm going to do on Monday. I asked them, I need to make sure that I have right away, straight from the studio. Once we wrap, I go get a massage, cryotherapy. I have an Epsom salt bath almost every other night prepared for me at the hotel. I have a good dinner, and then I have to go to sleep, wake up, make sure I'm on set. The more that I'm focused on my recovery, the quicker I can get into studio and outperform everything. Those are some of the interesting takeaways, is really taking the time to prep yourself. And not every job can you do that, but I voiced my opinion and I said, hey, I want to show in and do the best job that I can on Tuesday and Wednesday and the rest of the week, not just Monday. And the studio was more than gracious to be able to give me those opportunities. They were very flexible. Thank you guys for supporting. We absolutely appreciate it. There's so much content on its way. Keep supporting, keep sharing our videos, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.